You don't have an intensity problem. Your nervous system just moves fast. Welcome back to season 2 of Go Be Too Much. This season, we're not shrinking, fixing, or filtering. We're expanding. Expanding your voice, your capacity, your nervous system, your ability to hold more without losing yourself in the process. If you ever felt like you were too much, this is where that becomes your power. And hey, this podcast is for you. So if there's something you wanted us to talk about, break it down, or go deeper on, fill out the listener form linked below. This is your space to be unapologetic, unfiltered, unfinished, and unmissable. Hello, this is Go Be Too Much. I'm MJ, your host, Mandy and Cassie. And, I have no energy today. I had some processing yesterday that was completely unexpected and kind of sat me down and said, hey, here's something else you still need to work on. And then, of course, my insomnia for like the last 2 weeks has been just out of control to where I take medicine to help me sleep and it's just not doing its job. So my energy today is a bit like, I don't want to do this. And Mandy's energy is running on, I have nothing in my tank. I'm empty, but it's creating aliveness.
But I'm happy and filled with joy and I want to do all of the things. I'm just going to go run a fucking marathon because I need to process some things and it's just stuck in my body.
Well, and it's the ADHD. You're like, how much time do I have and what can I fit into that small time slot?
Literally. And then I'm going to add 2 more things just because I know I can't. Just because while I'm doing this, I know I can also do this.
And Cassie's energy is probably somewhere in the middle today. So, and we're recording in the morning, and that energy is always different than the nighttime energy. And, so as always, hang in there with us. We'll make it through the maze together. But I think the conversation today is about some energy and healing. We're always healing, and the energy of capacity. And if we have the capacity for ourselves, we talked last episode about, if they would, or how does the saying go? If they wanted to,
they would, but if they have the capacity.
But if they don't have the capacity, right? And so all of that comes into talking about energy and recognizing our own energy and other people's energy. And so Mandy was sharing with us about she's living life and doing the things, and it's things that even her younger self wouldn't have been doing. And so that in turn is helping to heal those parts of her, which then I admitted that I myself have recently found out that was making choices and decisions because apparently I'm trying to redo something from the age of 27. And all of that ties into the lovely topic of mother and father wounds and our upbringings. And as I said yesterday, I was sat with realization of some things for myself and that still needed healing. And I think starting this conversation on that, we talk on here a lot about being healed and healing, right? And the healing journey is exhausting because you constantly are doing it, whether you're cognitively aware of it or it's just subconsciously happening. And you make progress. You can tell the difference. I was talking to Cassie in a side conversation and she was like, wow, that's progress. Wow, that's great of you. And I was like, yeah. Because in my head, I'm like, but here I am with this thing that still needs worked on.
But you wouldn't have recognized it previous to the situation. So progress is progress, and I will be the one to point it out.
Yes.
Progress, not perfection.
I did say in that message that I give gratitude for this particular situation, and it's showing me that because I have learned heavily that even though it's discomfort and Shiloh, even though it's discomfort and it is upsetting and it is like, another thing, right? I am grateful for it because I do want to be my best self. I do want to be my best self for me, for my friends, for my kids. And because by being my best self, I know that I get to have then my best life. And that, though, is emotional. And that is humbling. And it is frustrating to constantly have to be like, here's another thing. And so for people out there that are in the healed and healing or just healing, and you start to get frustrated on, am I ever gonna like not be doing that? The answer is probably no. I hate to break it to you, but you're gonna be happy about it because you know that if things keep coming up for you to heal, that it means you're getting better. And I guess that's the tough part about building your own self awareness and building that knowing in yourself that you have to have the hard parts, you have to have those downsides in order to get the better. And you have to be willing to sit with it and look at it. And so for me, this conversation, it was, I love my parents and they are wonderful people. And I had a good childhood. But that doesn't mean that there still aren't things that could have been different and that my experience was still difficult without me or them even knowing. And it makes me emotional because that's how like unself-aware the whole world is. That if I talk to my parents and talk to them about these things, my dad really like he'll respond emotionally. He'll do those things now, right? But at the time growing up, like he worked a lot. He was gone. He was in and out, but not because he doesn't love me, right? And that still impacted me. We talked about it in the last episode. I didn't choose to do a lead role in a theater position because I chose sports. And they didn't put that pressure on me. They were proud of me. They congratulated me. It was my choice. But in that, I chose to do something to please other people because of that connection. That being in volleyball meant more connection to my dad. And so, and it makes me emotional because anybody who knows me and knows my dad, like, he's a good man and he did the best he could. And so did my mom. And I get to say that now. And I get to say that too about the last episode. We talked about past relationships and them not getting it in certain things, but I had a lot of things broken in me. It's like we say all the time, like we are the problem too. And as you actually heal and healing, you sit in that space, duality of seeing not only their flaws, but your flaws. And it's like nobody's at fault. Everybody's out here just doing the best they can. But it's sad because it truly is like nobody gets to grow up unscathed. And I think there was a time in my life that you would have never heard me say that I had anything to heal from when it comes to my parents and my childhood.
Well,
And
and
so,
we go
go
ahead.
ahead. No, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, well, and how each of us, like even the three of us, internalize different things. All three of us could be in the exact same spot, experiencing the exact same thing, and all take a different piece of it. A different piece will either resonate with us, impact us, crush us. You're right. And so, like, it's not to say that, like you said, your parents did the best they could with what they had, but you growing up in the environment you did in the certain day situation, whatever it was, you just internalized a difference. And there's no fault to that, right? Like, your parents shouldn't take guilt on that in a sense because it's like it's a you thing, like you internalized it. And I think it's healthy, like as we grow up, that we're able to recognize these things because again, I feel like as a parent we try to give our kids a better life than what we had, right? And of course it's generations going down, but like there's days where I'm like, Davina, I love you with all my heart. And there's other days where I'm like, girl, I'm a straight throat punch you. And I don't know what's going to happen. And the other day I was like, Davina, I'm really trying to use peace and not violence, but you're making it really hard not to choose violence right now. And she just looked at me and I was like, please, like I am trying so hard not to be like that person, right? But even you feeling the emotions right now, like those are real emotions. Those are feelings that you have. And I mean, we talk about it all the time. Like we are healed and healing and you're never going to be perfect, but why would you want to be? Like being perfect sounds fucking boring. Now, do I wish that we had a few less bumps in the road or
I just
roadblocks?
like a decent stretch here of like,
Could you throw some pebbles instead of boulders? Because that'd be cool.
my whole life has been a lot of like battles here, but these last few years, I'm just like, can we just have a little bit longer stretch?
Can you just let me be happy for a little bit?
Let me just be in the heel for a moment.
That's between you and Gus at this point.
Because ADHD is in the room with us, Mary, as you're talking about, I need you to know my side screen over here off to the edge. As you're talking about all of this, it rotates between scenes, and I never know what it is. Wouldn't you know that right now it's penguins? There's a it's a penguin screen from a little Mary over here as we're talking about all things. And you know, again, I'm sure we've talked about penguins on this podcast at some point,
I
but
don't think we
I
have.
always
I think we
I
have.
always I always think of you when I see penguins. And of course, it's fucking penguins. So sorry, ADHD.
No, I saw you looking over there and I was like, I almost thought you were like getting emotional, but I was like, what is happening? Like,
That too.
what are
That too.
you looking
Yeah,
at?
no, it's the penguins. It's my little emotional support penguins.
Yes, penguins. All right. So since we brought it up and we're gonna let's have a little happier moment here. So penguins are my favorite. I love them. I've loved them for I can't even remember how long. Some of that love comes from a best friend of mine who passed away way too early, and he also loved penguins. I will never forget when us as like young adults went to watch Happy Feet together, and him and I were so excited, and our friends that went with us were like, we can't believe that Kyle and Mary dragged us to this kid movie. But him and I were just like little feet kicking the whole time. We're so happy. But love for penguins is because I feel like I resonate with them. They are the little awkwardest, like people ever. But then you get them in some water and they are just graceful and beautiful, right? They are funny, they are loving, right? And then I also love that it's like the man who stays with the egg and the woman goes off and does the things. And I love that they give pebbles to the one that they love forever and that is just it. And so penguins have a lot of meaning for me on various different levels. And whenever they show up, I like to believe that Gus and my guardian angel Kyle are with me and supportive. And so that is the penguin background story.
Well, now I'm curious because I've always known penguins are your favorite. Mandy, do you have a favorite animal?
I mean, I maybe horses. I always liked horses growing up because I did not have them. I grew up out in the sticks, so I was hillbilly adjacent, right? We had the broke down cars and lawnmowers in our front yard. Everybody else had, you know, like the horse farm, the cow farm, the turkey, like they had farms. We had, you know, automobiles. And I loved horses. And then I think I don't remember what level of life it was, but I had to do like volunteer time and I did it at a therapeutic equine therapy. So it is therapy for kids a lot of times with like behavioral diagnosis or a lot of anger, a lot of like they need a regulation because when you're around a horse, you can't be losing your shit because the horse feeds off of your energy. I think I had to have been like middle school or junior high because I was not an adult, but I remember like doing this process and learn like I didn't know that that's what they were teaching us how to regulate in those moments. But I just thought horses were so beautiful because they were big and powerful and like they will follow your lead if you are worthy of leading. But if you're a dumbass or if they're like, you know, I'm smarter than like they're not, you haven't built that trust with them, they're going to lead you astray. And the first time I like got bucked off of a horse because it took off with me, I was like, okay, I was doing some fuck shit. Like I should not have been doing whatever that was. I think they're so beautiful. I love horses, could never own them. That's way too much for me, but I think they're so beautiful. I love to watch them run in the sun and they're just like all powerful, all being, I was gonna say little creatures. They're not little, but I was like, I always said horses were my first love, but beyond that, I've never really thought about it. But I love a horse because you have to be regulated around a horse, and you have to be confident around a horse because they can smell it, they can feel it, and they're very intuitive in that. And I think that's dope.
I love
Equine
that.
therapy is great for people, for anybody interested in
Mm-hmm.
what he's talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Thing. I'm sure if somewhere in
Yes,
your community they have it.
it's very
Well,
popular here.
Yeah.
and they hold just so much spiritual energy too, right? Like they do. They just know. And of course, if we were to go back in the day, I mean, Native Americans had horses and like
Exactly.
guided by that. And I don't know why. And maybe Mary reposted it on TikTok. This is me squirreling ADHD, sorry. But and then I reposted it. but it was talking about Mother Willow on Pocahontas and talking about, just all the different essentially colors of the wind, right? And it just was like, man, I was like, this is just so beautiful and on all the energies. And Mandy, my best friend, actually had horses growing up. So she had over 20 and I was at her house all the time. Like I love horses. Like, and even so now, like I get clients in the country a lot of the times, and anytime the neighbors have horses, I'm all like, "You guys can look at the house." 'Cause I'm just like, the horses come to me and then they just are my best friends. I'm like, "Oh, just
Yes.
the connection and stuff, like, I feel like as soon as I see a horse, it almost just brings peace. Like, you just
Yes.
instantly are like, "I have no fucking problems. I'm just gonna touch this horse." Like,
Yes. I love it.
Instead of touching grass, go touch a horse.
I'd say ask permission, but I haven't asked
Right, I was
permission.
Listen, I think horses give you the permission though, like, because they will not fuck with you. If your energy is not
Absolutely.
something that they will not fuck with you, they're not coming near you. But if they come near you, it's because they trust you. Hmm.
Yeah.
lots of them
There's
actually.
probably.
Jesse, what's yours?
Mine's an elephant, 'cause
They trust.
I even before I moved to elephants and buffalo, because like right now I have lots of buffalo in my house, but I picked elephants since I was a tiny, tiny kid. And it's just because they watch over everybody. Like they're the ones that's like, don't fuck with me, but they're the most kind, caring, they accept everybody kind of thing. And of course, I didn't know any of these meanings until I was older, but I've always gravitated towards that. And I feel like that's how I am. Like, if you're in my circle, I got your back. I'll mother hen everybody. But yeah, if you come and attack people, then I'm just about to. Elephants, like they're so nice, but they will trample your ass because of course they're just like horses. They're massive. They'll be like, I give no fuck.
Yeah, like
Don't mess with my family.
they know their power, yet they don't use it to obliterate all of us,
Mm,
right? They're bigger than all of us. They are more powerful than all of us, and they're not using it to crush us. And I think that's what I love so much about like the animal world in general, because like they existed before we did in many capacities, whatever your beliefs are, whatever. Like we share space with species that, we have come to believe ourselves to be superior to. And if you look at animals, like they're like, how am I going to live today? How am I going to survive today? Like, I'm going to stay out of trouble because I'm not going to go over here because that's where my predator lives. Like, I'm going to stay here because this is where my food exists. Like, oh shit, the weather's changing. We should migrate because we can't live here. We don't do well here, kind of thing. Or like, there's just, it's so simplified what we as humans have like overcomplicated with our reasoning or whatever. Like, there are dumb animals. Don't get me wrong. Dumb animals exist. And, nature does its thing and those animals die. Those species die off. But like elephants, Cassie, like you said, they're fucking smart as shit. Like they herd together. They don't leave anyone. They don't leave anyone. They are as fast as their slowest member. You talk about the buffalo and going head into the storm, whereas cows are like trying to run away from it. Cows are stupid. Cows will die. That's why we eat cows, because they're
I
stupid.
mean,
We
we eat
love
buffalo.
them. We love them, but there's less buffalo and they're more expensive because there are less of them accessible to us. Because buffalo, they know the things, and like penguins they're just out here fucking having fun. They're tricking everyone into think they're little chaos goblins, and then they jump into water and they're just like these little angelic mermaids, just having the fucking time of their life. Like, we
It's that
lost the
water
plot
sign for
somewhere.
Mary.
Yeah, I was like, we lost the plot somewhere, guys. We need to like do more shit like animals.
Well, but all that talking about the energy and that they listen to that of like nature and they listen to their internal needs of like, well, we're running out of food here or shelter here. Like, well, we're migrating over here or doing these things, like you're saying, and that society and just things that make us human is what does create for us to forget those things. And so bringing it into what we're talking about with wounds and energy, and that we get pulled to things and we don't always know what's pulling us to that. It's some form of energy, right? And we don't know sometimes until we're in that interaction and those situations whether that was something that we're supposed to like learn from it and walk away from it, if we're supposed to learn from it, embrace it, if we're supposed, and And all of that again is listening to our own internal selves, and we lose how to do that along the way, and the generations before us have lost that, so they didn't teach us, and that's what we're trying to help reteach people. And through my business, that's what I'm doing. I'm trying to help people do what it is that I've learned to do now, and listening more to that and picking up on it faster. It doesn't always mean that we like that. I literally just said that I'm going through a situation where it was like, that's what that pull is, right? Like, that's what I can't shake about that energy. Like, and now that I know and I have that awareness, and I pivot, and I can take whatever different actions, right? But we don't, it's not well enough known in how to do, and listening to ourselves. And that's the biggest thing to me, is like, that I think that I am still healing from, is that betrayal of self. And that it doesn't, all the things, all the interactions, all the experiences, both sides wrong, both sides right, at the end of the day, all of that comes to the point of us abandoning ourselves, betraying ourselves. And that's what needs the healing. And I actually think I talked with a client at my other job recently about how you do all this work to heal things in your life that have happened and experiences. And then you reach a point where then you turn and you need to do that internal healing. And I think that's the piece that people miss and don't realize. They're like, oh, I've done all this healing. I've worked on my past wounds. I've done the things, but now, like, why is this still happening? Well, if that's where you're at, if you're like, why is this still happening? That's where I come in, because I'm going to help you figure out the internal part of that.
Ooh, I love that transition.
So good. Yeah. I love when things just flow.
The penguins were speaking to me.
So when you were talking, I was thinking about how when we talk about these things and we live in an instant gratification world, right? Like we want things lickety split. And so like an example that when you were talking was yesterday, you went through your session, you talked to me right after, and you processed it for a day and it was a completely different outcome. And I think that's something to mention too, is like we instantly are like, we got all these things, we're firing them off like wildfire. And then when we actually, as hard as it is for us to sit still and like actually soak it in and understand the things, like you now have a better idea of the current situation and how you want to move forward rather than the quick things that you had thought of. And I think that's another thing that sometimes people forget, is that it healing is not quick. As much as
It's
we
not
wish
quick, not
we
linear, it's not
no, it's
easy.
not. No, Rick had just sent me this Instagram reel before we got on that I listened to. And this guy was like, I know this is going to sound weird, but I need you guys to close your eyes as I'm talking about this. And of course, he's like, I know you just rolled your eyes, but please just close your eyes and do this because it'll make sense when I'm done. And once you close your eyes, he talks about 10 years later, you're like, I'm in a shitty ass life. Things suck. They're not what I want them to be. I wish I could go back 10 years and tell myself, like, change these things and do these things, yada, yada, yada. And then he goes, open your eyes. He's like, you now have just gone back 10 years. You have that chance because you have essentially just visualized how shitty your life was. And once you opened your eyes, you're back 10 years and you get to choose today to change your life so it's not that way. And I was like, jeepers, man, like it really is that simple, but it's not that simple.
Well, and I think, like you said, sitting in it, right? We don't, again, people were avoidant of that discomfort. And, and sometimes it takes, and that's, yeah, I think we've talked about, sometimes you repeat a lesson until you're learning it, right? And I can tell you this, the current lesson that's come up for me, emotionally unavailableness, right? And it is something that I'm like, God, I feel like I've done so good. And in some aspects, I really have. I do set boundaries faster. I do pick up on things faster. Clearly, something's still there, nagging at me, pulling at me. And so sitting in that, and like that, it just now almost made me emotional again, of ugh, like I still am not over that. Whatever is in me that still feels pull to those people, individuals that have that in them that is unavailable, like why is that still there? And well, back into education of that's attached to your father wounds, right? And so it's like, okay, so then I need to sit with that and I need to sit in those feelings. And we don't like to do that because that's sad and that's uncomfortable and I still have that to heal and it's many layers of things. And sometimes it's okay. Sometimes you just have to sit in it. You just have to let the feelings come up and that's the whole it's okay to not be okay. And it's okay that yes, you notice the progression and the things that you've done well, but that there's still some of this that isn't quite there yet. And don't take it as you're not gonna get there. All the evidence supports that you're gonna get there. Look at all the things you've already done. But it doesn't mean that it's still not there and that it still needs your attention to look at it. And, I actually, it was funny. I had a conversation with Candace. She just watched the off campus show and yeah. And she's like, damn it, I've been doing fine in my single era. And now I just want a cutesy little relationship. And what if my best years are behind me? And I'm like, girl, I get it. I'm like, just sit in those feelings. It's okay. Feel it out. We all did it when we watched it. Like,
I'm the only one who doesn't watch TV, and I haven't watched it yet.
hey, you gotta watch it, Cassie.
Never home.
Or put that in the car when you're sitting at like dance practice or whatever I don't know, when you're waiting on a client to show up, just microdose. I am curious. You brought that up, Mary, and I also probably had that experience with, well, fuck, I thought I was fine. And I watch a lot of BL and I'm like, oh, this is great. I love boys kissing. I love boy love. I love this. But like, it's boys. So I'm like, oh, they're so cute. I love that for them. Off campus, I'm like, well, this is a reminder. This is a reminder of like lack or what I don't have or what is what I feel is not attainable. And I think that show, I may have texted her, sent you a video like a couple episodes in because I was like, rude. This is not what I was watching this for. I was not trying to be called out for some shit specific. And I don't want to give spoilers because I don't know who watches that. Don't know who wants to watch it. But like, the plot line of how we get here and just like, his father wounds, the main character's fucking father wounds, and how that impacted how he showed up and how that impacted his relationship with Wellesley in there. Like that impacted him and like her storyline and how that impacted her and how she showed up. While it wasn't directly tied to her parents, she had a phenomenal relationship with her parents. And like he saw that and was like, damn, like that hurts that I don't have that. And she was like, God, I have great parents, but I feel like such a fuck up. I feel like such a failure. I feel like I ruined their life. She was carrying that burden of like, I've ruined my parents' life. And they were absolutely nothing but supportive to her in that situation, in that incident. And, like, shocker to no one. Okay. There's 15 books. There's reels everywhere. We've all seen it. They break up. Okay. They break up because of their own shit that they haven't, like, she said at one point, she's like, don't feel pity for me. I'm fine. I had a lovely therapist, Carol. She had a great tea collection. I am fine. I've healed for this. I've processed it. And she hasn't because she did the work in therapy and she did the things in the safe environment and figured out the tools to make herself feel safe. But she hadn't figured out how to exist in the spaces, dating, that were, what 20 something year olds do because it wasn't safe. She hadn't built safety. And that was the sexiest fucking part of that episode when Fuckboy is talking about, bro, she's not going to do anything. She's never, ever going to come if she doesn't feel safe with you. You have to build trust. And to have the fuckest of fuckboys say that line of like, bro, the sexiest thing you could do is build trust and ask her consent. I was like, what the fuck why is this show making me feel things like, no, give me the ass back. Put the ass back on the camera. I want to see that. I want to see the hockey ass. But no, they're dressing like heavy shit. And I don't like, I still am unpacking that as people watch it. And I think Mary, and why I was on you so much to watch Heated Revelry is because like people are like, oh, it's just a bunch of fucking, and I was like, it's not, it is, but it's not. Like the themes and the stuff that develops and that you get to see is like people figuring their shit out. People like, oh God damn, I thought I was good with this, but I'm not. Or like, I thought I had healed from this, but I didn't. And like the last scene, I'm coming to the cottage and like Shane and his parents, and just the shift that we see with like it's so much more than just the fucking y'all. So if you haven't watched Heated Rivalry or Off Campus, like yes, disclaimer, maybe don't watch it with your children, maybe don't watch it around your children, maybe don't let your children watch it right away of certain episodes, but like there are other takeaways. And I think like it's wild how all of that comes back to like, yeah, the father wounds, the mother wounds, the family shit, and how it impacts how you show up as a friend, how you show up as a parent, how you show up as a partner. And you're like, I'm good. I've got it. And then the universe is like, okay, there you go. Here's a relationship. I'm like, this is disgusting. Absolutely no.
It's so funny. Go
Go,
ahead,
Cassie.
Mary.
No, you're fine. Go, Cassie.
Well, I just was gonna say it's so funny that this is how you brought it up, and this is literally my life because I went to therapy, and I've talked about that on here before, how I went every single week because I was like, man, I'm fucked up. And then Gus just sprinkles in Richard King and was like, here you go. And I was like, oh, I'm healed. I got this. And I cried more with that man than I did when I was in therapy. And it wasn't because he was yelling at me. It wasn't because he was beating me. It wasn't anything. It's because he was so fucking nice and he held space for me to figure it out. And I was so used to all the trauma. And like, I think that, like Mary was talking about, like you could go to therapy and you could do these things, but until you learn
So you live
to
it.
actually like live it and have that part. And I had a friend recently reach out and she said, you know what I just realized is that I don't have to be healed to get into a relationship because somebody is going to accept that piece of me and we're going to grow together and through it. And of course, you know, most people that have listened to this podcast, I already experienced that and it's the hardest, most beautiful thing. But like to have somebody else say it, I'm like, yes, like you don't have to be healed to get into these things. Like, but you do have to find somebody with the capacity to go in that direction with you. And the other thing I was going to mention, Mary, was the pivot theory that if you don't like where your life is at, you can always pivot. And
Right?
that's also what you're here for.
Yes, yes. No, and I'm that's exactly what I was gonna touch on is that yes, you do all this healing and put yourself in different situations and these lessons come up in all sorts of ways, whether like that work, parents, family connections, friends connections, your children, relationships, like it's all it can be an interaction with a stranger that can create that healing. It can be a TV show, right? And so, yes, you do a lot of it on your own. You do a lot of it with your close supportive people, right? But at the end of the day, yeah, you have to put yourself in the situations too. You have to do the things to try. You have to shoot the shots. You know, and sometimes it's just it's not gonna be what you want, right? And it's gonna be, you know, that you realize you're still pulling in the things that are of those wounds, but until you do those things, you don't know that that's happening. And once you realize that that's what's happening, it's how you move within that that makes the difference. And so, yeah, it's a lot to have to balance. But you have to be willing to, or again, you're just going to stay repeating the same patterns, repeating the same cycles, and not living then your best life or being your best authentic self. And that's what Go Be Too Much is all about, is being all that you are and embracing your muchness.
Just
So
sit here and sit with that.
yeah.
I know. It's like sit. You just sit with that, and that's the point, Cassie. I think it was you that said like, I know sitting still is really hard for us, and I. This is no surprise to absolutely anyone who knows me in my life. Everyone consistently tells me I'm doing too much. They consistently tell me I need to slow down. Consistently tell me I need to just like be still and relax. And I'm like, fuck you, first of all. But secondly, like I know that. Duh. I know that, but it's like, okay, but like when am I supposed to stop moving? When am I supposed to stop? Because if I don't do the things, then they won't get done. And if I don't show up for this person, then they're gonna think that I hate them or that I'm not good at my job or that I'm not a good friend or that I'm not a good whatever. And it's just like the mind fuck. So like the awareness is there, but being able to sit with it and figure out like, okay, what am I supposed to do with this awareness? How do I move differently so things cannot so I don't run from them? right? The niceness. That is the immediate thing that I run away from. Again, also anyone who listens to this podcast or knows me in real life, like nice things make me want to vomit. I think I told Cassie I wanted to throat punch her on Tuesday or Wednesday, whenever the fuck it was. I was like, stop being nice to me. Stop saying nice things. Strangers on the internet say nice things and it makes me cry.
I'm
And
surprised
then
you didn't tell me to fuck off last night when I texted you.
well, I might tell you to fuck off when it arrives, but we'll see. We will see. I
Mary,
just,
I saw something that I was like, "I like it, she wanted it, she bought it, and it's going to Mandy's house."
Yeah. Love it. Love it.
that is the part of this whole healing thing that I know that I still continue to struggle with in terms of, especially you talk about mother and father wounds, and I don't know that I have the capacity to get into that right now in this moment, but it is something that comes up a lot for me, especially with the work that I do with kids. There's a lot of times that I have to check in with me and make sure that there's no like counter transference going on, because I can see myself in a lot of these kids, and I think that that's why I do the work that I do. And I've said that before because I can see myself. It's like I'm trying to heal them, I'm trying to help them, but like I'm trying to fucking heal me. I'm trying to figure this shit out for me, and that looks different day to day. And there are times where I probably don't say this enough, or I don't say it in the right spaces, but like I do believe that my parents did the best that they could, but also like they fucked up. They fucked up, and I don't think I realized that until I was older, until I was in my adult life, until I was working with kids and watching things change around the world. And I do believe that my parents did the best that they could, but that doesn't mean that it didn't still hurt. It didn't still like fuck with me. I think that's the part where I struggle with these kinds of conversations about mother wounds, father wounds, is because I don't feel like my parents have the capacity to sit with their discomfort when myself or my siblings say, "Hey, this hurt us," or like, "Hey, I really needed you to show up in this way," or "I would really like it if you could support me in this way," because of, the life that they've lived, the upbringing that they had. I don't think that they have the capacity, and I don't fault them for that. And I know that that's what they feel like, that I'm the asshole and they can't do anything right and nothing is good enough for you. And I don't fault them for that. I am simply asking when I am ready, and do the big scary thing and try to have the conversations about how I feel or how I felt in that moment or what that experience was like for me, to be met with curiosity or compassion and not immediately met with protective things and like going into defense mode. And I think that's where a lot of us do that too. A lot of us, because of our unhealed parent wounds, is we go into protective mode or defensive mode of like when somebody's trying to share information with us, when somebody is trying to tell us how they feel, that's how they feel. That's how they feel. We cannot change that. We cannot impact that as much as we want to or think that we have the power to do that. We don't have the power for that. And sitting with emotions sucks because a lot of us don't give ourselves time to feel emotions. So the second like anything creeps up, it's like like the most, or the analogy I use for my kids, I'm like, y'all are just we're little Coke bottles. You're just a little Coke bottle going around in life, and like, oops, somebody dropped the Coke bottle. We picked it back up because we gotta go. A teenager threw it in their fucking backpack. And so they're just in the backpack. We're on the bus. We're all over the place. The Coke bottle is still in the backpack. It's still doing the things that it needs to do. It is still Coke. It's still Coke at the end of the day. You get to the end of the day and you've done all these things and you've dropped it and it's been in your backpack, and you fucking open it in your safe space because you're home and you're so excited. I'm going to have my Coke. I've been dreaming about it all day. And that motherfucker explodes everywhere because you didn't take care of it. You didn't check in with it. You didn't stop. Just like you didn't give it a second to settle. And those are our emotions. Okay. It just takes 1 second of silence where you take the cap off and you're like, yes, I can finally, and it explodes everywhere
That
because
was
we
such a
didn't.
good analogy.
That's because teenagers are like, I don't want to feel anything. I don't have any feelings. I'm like, that's a bold faced fucking lie, but that's okay if you can't identify them. It doesn't mean you're not feeling things. Because what happens when you get to your safe spaces? What happens when you get into your room and it's quiet, or you find that playlist, or you watch that fucking show that you just thought was going to be fucking and it's not? And now you're feeling all of the things because you didn't stop to check in with yourself to feel any of the things. And now you're just crying into your midnight snack because a stranger on the internet was nice. So all that to say, just got to check
Well,
in with your day.
that was literally what I was about to say. I was gonna be like, so all's that to say that we love our listeners.
Got to check in with yourself, guys. You got to check in with yourself or you're going to be emotionally constipated. And that's not a fun place to be.
You gotta find ways to slowly let some of that out. Let that work out. Let yourself sit with it periodically. Let it
Yourself.
right. And it's uncomfortable. It's not easy. And the thing you said about like I could be aware that this is what that is. I could be aware that this is why that individual, because we definitely have a lot of understanding for people, right? And why they're doing what they're doing and all the things. And sometimes we want to ignore the self-awareness and be like, but I want to do it anyways. But I want to
For the plot.
avoid it
For the
anyway.
fuck around and find out plot.
And then you have to own that and be like, all right, so really that's not on that person. That's on me. I
Mm-hmm.
said yes to that. I agreed to the things I ignored.
Uh-huh.
Self-awareness.
And then we're back to the cycle, so now we need to pivot.
Right. And now we got to feel the feelings. So, with that, I think we'll end it today on all the wounds, the healed and the healing, the energy, and just to encourage you that don't give up just because it's still healing. Don't avoid it always. Maybe a little bit human,
You're
but
worth it. You're
what
worth it. You're worth it and you deserve it. You're worth going through the shit show, storm, whatever analogy you want. Like you're worth it. And I'm not going to say it's worth it. You're worth it. You deserve to see what the other side is like once you get there.
love you. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.